It was supposed to be a stupid game. Just another reckless, whiskey-fueled dare between friends. But instead, it cracked my entire life open like a rotten egg, spilling secrets I never should have seen. It started on a Saturday night, the kind where bad ideas are born. We were at Mike's place, a tight group of 5 guys who had known each other since college. The air was thick with the smell of cheap cigars and spilled beer. We had just finished our weekly poker game when Josh, always the one with a twisted sense of humor, leaned forward with a grin that spelled nothing but trouble. "All right, hear me out. What if we all take DNA tests, just for fun?" The room went quiet for a second before someone snorted. "What, you think one of us got switched at birth?" Mike chuckled, shuffling the deck for another round. "Nah," Josh said, stretching out the word. "I mean, to check if our kids are actually ours." Laughter erupted around the table, the kind that starts light but lingers a little too long. The kind that makes you wonder if maybe there's something unspoken beneath it. I laughed too, but the idea slithered into my brain like a parasite. Not because I suspected Emily, not because I had any reason to, but because the thought of absolute certainty was strangely tempting. So, like idiots, we went through with it. 5 grown men spitting into tubes like it was some kind of brotherhood ritual. We even made a bet. Whoever got the worst surprise owed the rest a steak dinner. Weeks passed and I forgot about it. Life went on. Work, home, the usual. Emily was Emily. Charming, busy, always somewhere between affectionate and distracted. Nothing seemed off. And then the envelopes arrived. 5 plain white envelopes sitting on Mike's coffee table, each one carrying the potential to ruin a life. "All right, boys," Josh said, rubbing his hands together. "Moment of truth. Let's see who's buying dinner." I grabbed mine without hesitation, tore it open, and scanned the page. Then my stomach dropped. There, in sterile black ink, was a simple, undeniable fact. The child I had raised for 6 years was not mine, and I stared at the paper. My brain refused to process the words staring back at me. Probability of paternity, 0%. 0. Not 99.9%, not a small error margin. A cold, scientific 0. My heartbeat pounded in my ears, drowning out the laughter and side comments from the guys as they opened their own results. The room around me blurred, voices turning into background noise. My hands clenched the paper so tightly that it crumpled, but I couldn't let go. "Dude, you good?" Mike's voice cut through the static. I looked up. The guys were glancing between their papers, some smirking, some sighing in relief. But Josh was staring straight at me, his face losing color as his eyes darted between his own results and mine. Something in his expression made my blood run cold. "What's wrong?" I asked, my voice coming out hoarse. Josh didn't answer. He just sat there, gripping his paper like it might burst into flames. That's when I knew. I knew before he even opened his mouth. Before the room went deadly silent. Before he looked at me with something I can only describe as sheer, bone-deep horror. "Man, Josh swallowed hard. And then Mike, the oblivious bastard, laughed. "Holy crap. Josh, you got something to confess." Laughter. Nervous chuckles. Someone whistled. But I wasn't laughing. The air shifted. The room wasn't friendly anymore. My hands were trembling, my pulse hammering against my skull. I felt like I was underwater, every movement slow, the weight of realization crushing down on me. Josh didn't deny it. He didn't say a word. And that silence told me everything. Emily. Josh. My best friend. My wife. 6 years. 6 years of my life devoted to a child that wasn't mine. A child that was his. I didn't remember standing up. I didn't remember grabbing him by the collar and slamming him against the wall. But suddenly, my fists were full of his shirt, and his back hit the shelf behind him with a crash. "Say it." My voice was unrecognizable. Something raw and guttural, coming from a place inside me I didn't even know existed. Josh's hands shot up, defensive. "Man, I swear." "Say it." The guys jumped up, trying to pull me off him, but I barely felt them. And then Josh finally spoke. "It was a long time ago." I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "A long time ago?" I echoed, shoving him harder. "You mean when I was marrying her? When I was planning a future? When I was raising your kid thinking he was mine?" His eyes darted to the others, then back to me, like he was looking for an escape, like he thought there was a way out of this. I didn't know, man, I swear. She told me it was a mistake, that it was only one time. A red haze filled my vision. One time. One time was all it took to rip my life apart. And the worst part? Emily knew. She had known this entire time. The moment Josh said one time, I almost lost control. My knuckles burned from how tightly I was gripping his shirt, and the urge to drive my fist straight into his lying mouth was unbearable. One time, and that one time resulted in a 6-year lie that I lived every single day. A lie I fed, clothed, held, loved. The other guys pulled me back, shouting over each other. Josh's face was red, his hands up like he was the victim here. I swear, I didn't know. Shut up. My voice was razor sharp. My chest heaved as I pointed a shaking finger at him. You knew the second you opened that envelope. Don't act like this is a shock to you. His mouth clamped shut. Because I was right. Josh had spent the last 6 years looking me in the eye, laughing with me, calling himself my best friend, all while knowing, or at least suspecting, that he had screwed my wife and put his kid in my house. The realization hit me like a truck. Josh wasn't the only one who had betrayed me. Emily had lied to me every single day for 6 years. I love you. Every time she looked at me across the dinner table. Every touch. Every night she fell asleep beside me while I thought I had a family. I needed to get out of there. I grabbed my keys and stormed out. I barely heard the guys calling after me. My mind was racing too fast. My vision blurred with rage and something worse. Pure, raw devastation. I don't even remember the drive home. One second I was at Mike's, and the next I was shoving my front door open so hard it slammed against the wall. Emily, I bellowed. Nothing. The house was too quiet. The kind of quiet that feels wrong. Then I heard it, the sound of hurried footsteps upstairs. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my heart hammering. I was ready to scream, ready to throw that DNA test in her face, ready to watch her try and lie her way out of it. But when I threw open our bedroom door, I wasn't prepared for what I saw. Emily was standing by the closet, wide-eyed. Her phone clutched in her hand like she had just ended a call. Her face was pale. Her mouth opened, then closed. And behind her, a half-packed suitcase sat on the bed. She wasn't even going to fight. She wasn't going to deny it. She was leaving. For a full 5 seconds, neither of us spoke. The only sound in the room was my own heavy breathing and the distant hum of the refrigerator downstairs. Emily's eyes flickered between me and the suitcase. I took a slow step forward, lifting the crumpled DNA results in my shaking hand. You knew. She swallowed hard. She didn't even try to fake confusion. Not, what are you talking about? Not, you're scaring me. Not even the pathetic, this isn't what it looks like. She just stood there. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh and tossed the paper onto the bed between us. Go on. Read it. Since you seem so desperate to run, I assume you already know what it says. She hesitated, then slowly picked it up. Her eyes scanned the words, and for a moment, just a single moment, I thought I saw something like regret flicker across her face. But then she did something that shattered whatever was left of my restraint. She exhaled, like a sigh of relief. So, I guess you know everything now, she said. Not an apology. Not even a fake one. Just resignation. My blood turned ice cold. You were never going to tell me, were you? She shook her head. Not even a flicker of shame. I took another step forward. And what? You were just going to disappear? Just like that? I gestured toward the suitcase. Emily finally moved, shoving the paper onto the nightstand as if it disgusted her. What do you want me to say, huh? She snapped, as if I was the one being unreasonable. My vision blurred with rage. How about the truth? For once. She scoffed, like I was overreacting. What does it matter now? I could barely breathe. It matters, Emily. It matters because I spent 6 years living a lie. Because I loved that boy like my own. Because I would have given my life for him. And all this time I cut myself off, my throat closing up. She sighed again, rubbing her temples like she was dealing with an inconvenience. It was a mistake, okay? She muttered. A stupid, meaningless mistake. A mistake, I repeated, my voice dangerously low. She nodded, crossing her arms. I didn't plan for it to happen. It was one night. It didn't mean anything. My hands curled into fists. One night. One night ruined everything. Emily shrugged. Shrugged. I tried to fix it. I actually laughed. A hollow, disbelieving laugh. Fix it? By what? Lying to me for the rest of my life. She rolled her eyes. Rolled her eyes. Like I was the dramatic one. I gave you a family, didn't I? She snapped. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed the suitcase and threw it across the room. It crashed into the wall, spilling open, her neatly packed clothes tumbling onto the floor. Emily flinched, but I wasn't done. You didn't give me a family, Emily. You stole one from me. For the first time, her expression cracked. Just for a second. Then, just as quickly, the coldness returned. She squared her shoulders, lifted her chin. Well, what now? You want to hit me? Scream some more? You're not changing anything. I'm leaving either way. I stared at her. At the woman I had once thought I would spend my life with. At the woman I had defended, trusted, built everything around. She was already gone. I took a slow step back, my body shaking with adrenaline, anger, grief, everything. Get out. My voice was hoarse. Emily smirked. Smirked. Gladly. Emily didn't hesitate. She reached down, grabbed a handful of clothes from the mess on the floor, and shoved them back into her suitcase like she couldn't get away fast enough. I just stood there watching her. No tears. No remorse. Not even a fake attempt to explain herself. She zipped the suitcase and yanked it upright. Then, with a flick of her hair, she turned toward the door. Something inside me rebelled. That's it. My voice came out rough, barely above a whisper. She stopped, hand on the doorknob, but didn't turn around. That's all you have to say? A pause. A deep breath. Then, finally, she looked at me. Her blue eyes were calm. Too calm. Like she had already erased me from her life. What do you want me to say, Ryan? She asked. Flat. Emotionless. That I regret it? That I wish things were different? That I love you? She let out a short, humorless laugh. Would that make you feel better? I took a step toward her, my heart hammering. Do you? She stared at me for a long moment. Then, slowly, a smirk curved her lips. Does it matter? Something inside me shattered. I had spent years loving this woman, building a life with her, and in return, I got a smirk and a question that told me everything I needed to know. It didn't matter to her. I didn't matter to her. She opened the door, dragging her suitcase behind her. I should have let her go. I should have. But then I heard it. A small voice from down the hall. A voice that belonged to the little boy I had tucked into bed every night for 6 years. Mommy! My entire body stiffened. Emily turned her head slightly, but she didn't step back inside. Footsteps padded against the floor, and then there he was, Noah, standing at the top of the stairs in his dinosaur pajamas, rubbing his sleepy eyes. He looked at me first, then at Emily, his little brows scrunched together in confusion. Where are you going? He asked, his voice groggy. Emily let out a soft sigh, annoyed, like she hadn't just torn our family apart, like she was being inconvenienced by her own child. Go back to bed, sweetheart, she said, her voice suddenly soft, fake. It's late. Noah frowned, his eyes drifting to the suitcase. He wasn't stupid. Are you leaving? Emily hesitated, just for a second. Then, in the coldest, most gut-wrenching moment of my life, she did the unthinkable. She turned around, and she left. No hug, no kiss, not even a goodbye. She just walked out. The front door clicked shut. Noah blinked, looking up at me, waiting for me to tell him this wasn't real, that his mother was coming back, that this was all some big mistake. But I couldn't, because Emily was gone, and she wasn't coming back. Noah stared at the door, waiting for it to open again, waiting for his mother to come back, scoop him up, and whisper that everything was okay. But Emily was gone. She wasn't coming back. I stood there, frozen, my pulse roaring in my ears. The DNA test was still sitting on the nightstand upstairs, its cold, scientific truth mocking me. Noah wasn't mine. And yet, in that moment, as he looked up at me with wide, confused eyes, waiting for me to explain why his mother had just walked out without a word. It didn't matter. Dad. His voice was small. It shattered me. I wasn't his dad. Not by blood. Not by genetics. But I had been there for every scraped knee, every bedtime story, every nightmare. I was the one who taught him to ride a bike. The one who held him when he cried. The one who had loved him unconditionally for 6 years. And now, the woman who brought him into this world had abandoned him without a second thought. I crouched down, leveling myself with him, swallowing past the lump in my throat. Yeah, buddy? He rubbed his eyes again, shifting on his feet. Where's mommy going? I couldn't answer. How do you tell a 6-year-old that his mother just walked out because she didn't love either of you enough to stay? How do you tell him that his entire life, our entire life, had been built on a lie? I forced my voice to stay steady. She had to go somewhere for a while. His brows furrowed. But she'll come back, right? Every muscle in my body tensed. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to lie to him, just for tonight, just to let him sleep peacefully one last time before reality came crashing down. But I couldn't, because the truth was right there, suffocating me. I don't know, bud, I whispered. I don't know. Noah's lip trembled, but he didn't cry. He just nodded like he understood something was very, very wrong, even if he didn't have the words for it yet. And that's when I knew. No matter what that DNA test said, he was my son. Emily might have lied to me. She might have ripped my heart out and stomped on it without a shred of remorse. But Noah was innocent. He didn't ask for this. He didn't deserve to suffer for her betrayal. Come on, buddy, I said, gently placing a hand on his back. Let's get you back to bed. He nodded again, taking my hand. His grip was small but firm, like he was afraid I'd let go too. I led him to his room, tucked him in, and sat beside him until his breathing slowed, his little chest rising and falling in peaceful sleep. And then, for the first time since I opened that envelope, I broke. Sitting there in the dark, in the house that had been my home, in the life that had been nothing but an illusion, I let the tears fall. Because Emily was gone, but Noah was still here. And no matter what, I wasn't going to leave him too. I barely slept. Even after Noah drifted off, even after I went back to my room and shut the door, my mind wouldn't stop screaming. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emily's face. The way she smirked. The way she shrugged off 6 years of deception like it was nothing. But worst of all, the way she left. No hesitation. No guilt. Not even a fake, half-hearted attempt to comfort her own son. That was what kept me up, staring at the ceiling while my chest felt like it was caving in. By morning, I wasn't just exhausted. I was furious. I wasn't going to let her disappear that easily. So I called her, straight to voicemail. I called again, and again, and again. Nothing. Fine. If she wanted to act like a ghost, I'd find her myself. I yanked on my jacket, grabbed my keys, and stormed out, barely remembering to tell the neighbor to keep an ear out for Noah. I didn't care about anything except finding Emily. Then the first surprise hit me. Emily's car was gone, but not just from the driveway. When I checked the GPS tracker on my phone, the same one we installed when she claimed her car was acting up, it wasn't moving. It was at the airport. A sick feeling twisted in my gut. I sped down the highway, my hands clenching the wheel so tight my knuckles ached. By the time I reached the airport, I was barely thinking straight. I sprinted through the parking lot, into the terminal, scanning every face, every figure, and then I saw her, Emily, standing at the check-in counter, with Josh. The second surprise? They weren't alone. A woman stood beside them, mid-50s, blonde, sharp features, dressed in a sleek black coat. At first, I didn't recognize her. Then all the pieces slammed together. Emily's mother. Emily's rich mother. And just like that, I understood everything. This wasn't an escape. This was a plan. Emily hadn't left in a panic. She hadn't rushed out because she was ashamed. She had prepared for this. The half-packed suitcase. Fake. The "oh no, you found out" act. Fake. Her sudden lack of excuses. Fake. Because she knew she had a safety net. She knew she had a backup plan. Her mother had paid for the tickets. For her and Josh. They were leaving together. And they hadn't even planned on taking Noah. The rage that flooded my system was unlike anything I'd ever felt before. It wasn't just anger. It was pure, blinding fury. I marched forward, my footsteps heavy, my heart pounding. Emily turned. And for the first time since this nightmare started, she looked shocked. Emily's eyes went wide the second she saw me. Josh stiffened. Emily's mother, Margaret, just sighed like I was some damn inconvenience. Like I was a child throwing a tantrum in the middle of their perfect little plan. I didn't slow down. I didn't care about the people around us. I didn't care that we were in the middle of a busy airport with families, security guards, and flight announcements blaring overhead. All I cared about was the woman who had lied to me for 6 years standing there like she had already erased me from her life. Emily opened her mouth, but I was faster. So, this was the plan? My voice came out razor sharp, loud enough that people around us started glancing over. You weren't running away. You were upgrading. Josh took half a step back. Coward. Emily's face hardened, like she was trying to regain control of the situation. Like she still thought she could talk her way out of this. Keep your voice down, Ryan, she hissed. I let out a short, humorless laugh. Oh, now you care about appearances? Really? You didn't care when you lied to me. You didn't care when you abandoned your son. Margaret clicked her tongue. Oh, don't be so dramatic. I turned my burning gaze on her. Dramatic, she sighed, shifting her designer purse onto her arm. You're being emotional. That boy, what's his name, Noah? He'll be fine. It's not like you're his real father anyway. I don't know what scared Josh more. The look on my face, or the fact that I took a single step toward Margaret like I was about to rip that smug expression right off her face. Either way, he finally decided to speak. All right, man. Let's calm down. Okay? Josh held his hands up. I get you're upset. But this is... I rounded on him. Don't speak. His mouth shut so fast I heard his teeth click together. I turned back to Emily. She was watching me, calculating, like she was trying to figure out the best lie to feed me next. You were never going to fight for him. My voice was quieter now. Not out of control. Not wild. Just cold. Emily's jaw tightened. Ryan, this is what's best for everyone. No, I cut her off. This is what's best for you. Don't pretend you give a damn about anyone else. She flinched. Good. But Margaret just sighed again, already pulling out her phone, probably to tell some assistant to handle this little issue for her. Look, she said, like she was explaining simple math to an idiot. Emily and Josh are moving on. They're going to have a fresh start, and you need to accept that. I stared at her, then at Emily, then at Josh, then at the damn plane tickets in their hands. And something inside me clicked. You already bought the tickets before I even knew, didn't you? I asked. Emily hesitated, just for a second. Josh's expression was the giveaway. Guilt. He glanced at Emily like he wanted her to fix this, like he needed her to smooth it over. That was all I needed to see. You were leaving either way. My voice was barely above a whisper now. Even if I never took that DNA test, even if I kept believing your lies, you were still going to leave. Emily didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence was the loudest confession she'd ever made. I felt something inside me break. But this time, it wasn't pain. It was clarity. I took a deep breath. Then I stepped back. Fine. Emily blinked. What? Fine? I repeated, calmer than I had ever been in my life. Go. Get on that plane. Leave. Do whatever the hell you want. Emily let out a breath, like she had one, like I had given up. But then I smiled. A slow, knowing, dangerous smile. But you're not taking Noah. Emily's entire body went stiff. Margaret frowned. Excuse me? I turned to her. You heard me. You're not taking him. He's staying with me. Emily's eyes narrowed. You don't have a say in that, Ryan. I let out a short laugh. Actually, I do. Because you didn't file for custody. You didn't file anything. You just tried to vanish like a coward in the middle of the night. I tilted my head, watching as the first flickers of panic crossed her face. And you know what happens when a mother abandons her child without warning? Emily swallowed. Josh looked at her. Margaret looked at her. Because they knew. If Emily got on that plane without filing custody papers, without a single legal document in place, She was done. She would never get Noah back. Because by law, she had just abandoned him. Emily knew it. I could see it in her face. She had been so sure she could just walk away, so sure that she wouldn't have to deal with consequences. But now she had a choice. Get on that plane or fight me in court. And judging by the way Margaret's face darkened, I had just flipped the entire game on its head. Emily didn't speak. Neither did Margaret. For the first time since this nightmare began, they were the ones caught off guard. I could see the war raging in Emily's mind. She had planned everything, her exit, her excuse, her backup plan. But she hadn't planned for me to fight back. Margaret was the first to recover. She stepped forward, her heels clicking sharply against the polished airport floor. "Ryan, dear," she said in that sickly sweet tone she always used when she thought she could manipulate someone. "Let's be reasonable. This isn't good for Noah. A boy needs his mother." "Oh, now you care?" I cut her off, laughing. Where was that concern when Emily was about to ditch him without a second thought? Margaret's expression didn't change, but her eyes flicked to Emily for a fraction of a second. She hadn't known. Margaret might have funded Emily's escape, but she hadn't realized her daughter planned to leave Noah behind like a forgotten suitcase. And now, in front of everyone, I had just exposed her golden child as the selfish, heartless coward she really was. Emily must have seen it too, because for the first time she panicked. "Ryan," she started, stepping closer. "Come on. Don't do this. We can figure something out." "No." I held my ground, stronger than I had ever been before. "There's nothing to figure out. You were ready to leave him. I won't let you come back just because I caught you first." Her face twisted. "You can't just take him from me." I smirked. "I'm not taking him, Emily. You left him. That's the difference." Her jaw clenched, her hands curling into fists. I could see the fire in her eyes, the desperate need to regain control. But she had already lost. Josh, the useless bastard, was shifting uncomfortably, looking between us like he wanted to disappear. He wasn't going to help her. Margaret wasn't going to help her. For the first time, Emily was on her own. And she knew it. The airport buzzed around us. Announcements, rolling suitcases, distant conversations, but we were locked in place. A silent battle, a final stand. Emily exhaled slowly. She knew if she got on that plane, it was over. Her eyes met mine, dark and calculating. Then, without another word, she grabbed her suitcase and turned around. And she walked away. I stood there, my chest rising and falling, watching as she left for the second time in 24 hours. Margaret hesitated. She shot me one last look, icy, furious, before huffing and marching after her daughter. And Josh? That coward didn't even make eye contact. He just scurried away, dragging his carry-on behind him like the pathetic excuse for a man he was. I didn't move, not until their figures disappeared into the crowd, swallowed by the endless flow of travelers, lost in the sea of people heading to new destinations. Only then did I let out a long, slow breath. Only then did I let it sink in. Emily was gone, and Noah was mine, forever. The drive home felt different, lighter, like I had been carrying a weight so heavy I didn't even realize it was crushing me. Until now, Emily was gone. Josh was gone. Margaret and her money, her manipulation, her self-righteous lectures, gone. I had nothing left of that life, except for Noah, and that was all I needed. I pulled into the driveway, cutting the engine. For a second, I just sat there, gripping the wheel, staring at the house that had once felt like a lie. But it wasn't. Not anymore. Because Noah was real. My love for him was real. And that was something Emily could never take away from me. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out and headed inside. The living room was quiet. Warm morning light filtered through the curtains, casting soft shadows on the walls. And there, curled up on the couch with his favorite stuffed dinosaur, was Noah. He was still in his pajamas, his hair messy from sleep. But the moment he heard the door, his little head shot up, eyes wide. "Dad!" I swallowed hard. He still called me that, because that's who I was. I forced a smile and walked over, sinking onto the couch beside him. He sat up, watching me carefully, like he was trying to read something on my face. "You okay, buddy?" I asked. He hesitated, then nodded. "Are you?" That nearly broke me. He was 6. He shouldn't have to ask that. He shouldn't have to worry about me. I ruffled his hair gently. Yeah, bud. I'm okay. His little hands gripped his stuffed dinosaur, pulling it close. Is Mommy coming back? A lump formed in my throat. I could have lied. I could have given him false hope, told him something comforting. But Emily had already poisoned this house with enough lies. I wasn't going to add another. No, buddy. My voice was soft, steady. She's not. Noah's small fingers tightened around the fabric of his toy. He didn't cry. He didn't even look surprised. After a long moment, he simply nodded. Okay. That was it. Just, okay. Like some part of him already knew. Like he had seen the cracks in Emily before I ever had. I wrapped an arm around him, pulling him close. He leaned into me without hesitation, his small body warm against my side. And that's when I knew. Emily leaving didn't break him. It didn't shatter his world the way I feared it would. Because he had me, and that was enough. I pressed a kiss to the top of his head. I love you, kiddo. No matter what. Noah smiled. A small, tired smile, but real. Love you too, Dad. And just like that, everything was exactly as it should be.